Gorilla Gang, what's going on? It is June 6th, 2021, Sunday. And I want to really quickly talk about yesterday a comment I got in my Melissa Lee video where Melissa Lee spurted out the word naked shorts and how we need to keep the ape community educated about what's going on, because if there's things like this that are questions that are still being asked, then everybody doesn't know the full scope and picture of this naked short FTD synthetic share drama that's going on right now with AMC. And people need to know so that they don't get scared with this FUD and panic of the stock going down. And I also want to get into 3 big takeaways from Superstonk's video that was cut back on May 18th, 2021, where he sat down with Wes Christian and did an hour-and-a-half interview about everything that he's uncovered in the last 20 years researching FTDs, naked shorts, synthetic shares, multiple lending of the same shares, all the shenanigans that Wall Street's been pulling on us for years. So, without further ado,
cue the speeder.
And you just said that on camera. This going viral.
I just want to thank all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for helping me pass 100. If you haven't subscribed, hopefully I can earn it today. So in this interview, Wes Christian goes into a bunch of different positions that he is taking on this investigation he's been doing into the hedge funds. He started this back in, I believe, 1994, and he's come across multiple things that have really been detrimental to Wall Street and retail investors like us, and how they are just making so much money off us, a whole generation's worth of wealth, is the way he described it in the video. He goes into talking about how our short-term data, everything we see in FINRA and Ortex is complete garbage. You can't go by any of those numbers. He talks about how there's 2 sets of books, one that the people on Wall Street are keeping, the hedge funds are keeping, and the other that's reported to the DTCC, and how they have an obligation warehouse, which is basically a graveyard for FTDs and multiple lens of the same share. He also goes in to talk about how they by making these positions long that are actually short, they're basically just kicking the can down the road, which is the can we're juggling right now and holding on to while we wait for our attendees and for us to go to the moon. He also talks about how when they are able to manipulate the stock market through frivolous lawsuits and manipulation and media attention that's bad or negative, or by using some of the grading agencies to give companies bad grades, they try to pound that stock into oblivion so that it goes to zero and they keep 100% of all of that profit. They don't have to pay back anything for any of those shares because the company's gone bankrupt. And he also says in his final part of the video how basically these companies are too big to go to jail and too big to fail, and therefore they just pay hundreds of millions of dollars in fines, but they really should go to jail because this is lying, cheating, and stealing. All right, so let's get into the first clip. And the first clip, he's going to talk about the FINRA and Ortex data.
Later is they're marking a lot of the tickets long. So one of the ways the bad guys believe, hey, I can circumvent Reg Show, and that this only applies to the United States, is I can market long. Because guess what happens when they market long? It doesn't go in short interest, which incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, means that the reported short interest is garbage in many cases. Why? Because all the shares that were marked long but have also failed to deliver in various different ways aren't reported in your short interest. So in most cases we've done, the short interest is 50% to sometimes 150% more than what's reported by the SEC, which of course is reported every 2 weeks. So,
yeah, and that's not a controversial statement either. You know, I was involved in a case in which the rebuttal of our report was them attempting to say, oh, but you know, we looked, they signed an affidavit. We looked through our marking system and we were not selling short. And our simple response was, go search FINRA broker check and you will be overwhelmed by the number of fines that result from mismarking these orders.
Yeah, I think the number of fines which is in that list, it's about 2 or 3 years old because it's a big effort to update it. the list that I sent over to you, Dave, I think is over 500 or 600 million. But again, it's just a cost of doing business. I mean, it's like Merrill got fined a couple years ago for using the cash account shares of their customers worldwide for their own proprietary trading. Okay. I think they fined them 450 million or something like that. Well, you know, my dad, you know, who was a rancher and a pilot, you know, said if somebody's making that much money, they're screwing somebody. Okay. So the bottom line is you can't pay that kind of fine unless you're making enormous amounts of money.
So basically what he's saying in this clip is Ortex and FINRA, you can't even rely on that really because it's so underreported. It's basically garbage. He called it garbage right in the clip, right from his mouth. That's not me speaking. And he talked about how they take short positions, mark them long, which is absolutely insane. And he also talked about how they were using our shares. Well, Merrill Lynch was doing this in one of the cases he investigated and lending out our shares to short back on us. And they only got fined $450 million. How much money are they making if they can afford to pay a $450 million fine? All right. Next clip is about the two different sets of books. Let's roll right into it.
So the bottom line is you can't pay that kind of fine unless you're making enormous amounts of money, which of course is what they did. So from there, what we've learned in some of this is in recent regulatory actions, is they're always thinking of new ways to not disclose this failed to deliver, places to put it that you can't find it, these type of things. So one of the latest ways in the last several years is one, they're bifurcating the sale from the delivery. So the one company will sell the shares, one of their affiliates will be responsible for delivering the shares, but that affiliate's in London, or it's in Hong Kong, or it's in Canada, or it's somewhere outside the purview of the SEC. Hence, it doesn't really show up. Okay. Secondly, they're doing a lot more ex-clearing transactions. So another thing that the viewers listening need to understand, this is extremely important, is there, in my mind, there's two sets of books. Two sets of books, no different than how Enron kept two sets of books here in Houston. One set of books is through the DTC. That's what I would call an audit trail. But if you go look at the Depository Trust Corporation, you're going to see that several years ago, they quit implementing the stock borrowing program like they did for many years. And what I believe, this is speculation on my part, but our experts believe this too, is a lot of that is now ex-clearing. Ex-clearing means it goes from broker to broker outside the purview of the SEC. We believe, I cannot prove this, and I'll always tell you that if I can't prove it, that a lot of that's going through the obligation warehouse. If you go to the DTC's website, you'll see that there is an actual entity that's the obligation warehouse. Can you imagine in the United States of America advertising an entity that does nothing but house fails? I call it the stock graveyard. The number of fails in that entity is enormous and growing and growing. So I wouldn't be advertising that if I was the one that was responsible in the United States for clearing a lot of these financial instruments. I think close to right before the open, we were talking about a good $1 trillion roughly. I think it's 800 trillion, 900 trillion dollars of financial transactions that the DTC clears. So bifurcating the sale from the delivery is another way. Another way.
So he's talking about two different sets of books here, what the hedge funds are actually keeping and what they're reporting to the DTCC. The DTCC has a place called the Obligation Warehouse where they are dumping all of these failure to delivers and multiple lended stocks, and they're just housed there in this, what he called a graveyard for these shares. So they're using them to manipulate us and then sticking them in a closet somewhere, never to be seen again, never to be brought to the light of day, which now our movement is working on bringing this to light. Now, the third clip I'm going to show you is going to be two small clips from the end of the interview talking about the apes and what we're doing and how they just keep kicking this down the road, Kicking the can down the road was how he described it. Roll the clip.
Actually, they're making it three ways. They're making it when you buy the stock from them. They're making when they short against you with the stock you bought, and they're going to make it with lending your stock to others so they can make, negative rebate on it. So the bottom line is that we're going to have to come together as a similar wolf pack to share information, to educate ourselves and fight it. Okay. And ultimately, win the battle as at least was done in part, on GameStop. I'm in shock. The company, frankly, hasn't tried to do something. I know there's other lawyers that have filed class actions, I'm told. I don't know because I'm not a class action person, really. But the bottom line is that it's going to take a massive effort by people, by the investing public. That'd be the best phrase, by the investing public to rise up and do things like keep their shares in cash accounts, monitor their account, make sure the shares aren't lent. That'll shut down a lot of it. Having these big pension funds, which I'm told are now changing what they used to do. They used to lend that stock out because they got a piece of the profits, but they've already seen that lending that stock out deteriorates their portfolio because guess what? The asset base goes down in value. Gosh, that's a genius idea. So the point is you're seeing changes because one, it's not right. Number two, it's illegal. And number three, ultimately, you're not going to get the reward from it, you think, especially if it's exposed and punished. So this effort that these ladies and gentlemen in this group are involved in is critical. It's mission critical, and other lookalikes just like them, in my view.
Sounds like something that's very similar to that.
It is, and when you think about it, if somebody Xeroxed their car title 100 times and sold it to 100 people and took the money, but they only have one car, I promise you they would be in jail by a week from Tuesday. I promise. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. But the problem is this is controlled by the cabal. Okay.
Well, this is all sort of part and parcel of too big to jail, right? This is all part and parcel of, and in talking with the community and talking with different people here, there is a lot of anger and frustration born out of the great financial crisis, right? And the fact that nobody was punished or went to jail, and the fact that a lot of people did really well out of that. And now we're seeing similar things, right? We're seeing this constant redistribution of wealth and wealth inequality, and constant lying and cheating and stealing, and no repercussions because these people are too well connected or they are too big to really take on.
Well, which is why, frankly, to the credit of this membership, this approaching 300,000 membership, I guess some of which are listening, is so critical, and all the other lookalike organizations, whether it's Reddit or whatever, I say the more the merrier because we have to expose it. Nobody can deal with it if you can't expose it. So what we've been about doing for 20 years, and the team is enlarged. And I was telling Dave before the break, frankly, you're going to see in the next 3 to 6 months some major things happen on the legal side because we've increased our bench exponentially. We put a big pot of money together, and we're going to go after this in an unprecedented way because doing it one case at a time, while at least in the last 10 or 15 years has been successful, it's just not enough. It's not moving the needle. We're not just in this for money. As my wife said, you'd have to be crazy to do this for money. So the bottom line is it takes, a gargantuan effort. It takes, as this group says, people as strong as apes, okay, because that's what it takes. So
yeah, I mean, that's great, right? They use the ape analogy to talk about an intelligence analogy, but really it can be a strength analogy. I think that's a great twist on it.
It is a great twist, and it's appropriate. We call it, you have to be, as strong as 8 acres of garlic in Texas. Okay. So the bottom line is that it takes a gargantuan effort. It takes a warrior. It takes somebody that's principled and never gives up. Because truly it's 2 or 3 of us against, 10, 15, 20. I mean, hell, I've had 30 or 40 lawyers against us, counting the ones on the phone, because it's, every big New York firm. And frankly, all the lawyers are great lawyers and very capable. And so ultimately, they then say, well, we got to figure this out. So they'll go create this, as two members in the conspiracy, the puts and the calls. Or if they're short, they'll get a friend of theirs to sell them a bunch of shares, which incidentally are short also, but they'll mark them long. So guess what happens when the naked short seller has this contingent liability on the brokerage firm's books? He calls a buddy, sell me some long shares. He sells him the long shares. Well, that cancels out. Magically, the number of long shares he got sold netted out his naked short to zero. He's all good until the compliance guy comes knocking again. So the mission is to kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road. So basically,
now you know who you're fighting.
All right, gang. Well, that's what I wanted to show you today. I wanted to bring you some of those important clips. I know this was kind of long, but that whole interview was like an hour and a half, so I just took out some of the best parts. I may try to make another video about it in the future. Thank you for making this far in the video. Thank you to my all new subscribers, new viewers. I appreciate you guys, and just hold on. Let's stay strong. We got a new week starting tomorrow. I'll have a video in the morning, and I'm also going to have a giveaway for tomorrow night. Something pretty cool that I picked up that I'm going to be giving away to a lucky subscriber. So if you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing to the video, that's all I ask. And buy and hold AMC stocks. Join us in this movement. If you already have, welcome to the community. And stay strong, guys. It's going to be probably a rocky week. But I will be back in the morning with a pre-market, maybe around 7 o'clock, talking about anything else that happens overnight. All right, guys, that's it. As always, I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.